Guys, just a little bit of piece of advice on how you can use the height of the handle to help you around the greens, in the bunker, hitting chip and pitch shots, okay? So just starting with the bunker, you see a lot of people always told to lower their hands in their setup position in the bunker without fully understanding why it actually helps you. If I'm hitting a shot in a bunker and let's say I'm short-sighted, I need a lot of height to the ball, I have to open this club face up, right, to try to get some loft on it. So naturally, I'm going to set up with the club face twisted a little bit, in my case out to the right, to try to get loft on it. Now the problem is, if I'm set up square and then I open this club face for the loft, my club face is going to point really far to my right. So the only way I can possibly get this ball started somewhat on my line, I now have to swing really far left to pull the start line back to my left. Well, that's going to cause me to get really steep on it, cut way across it. It'll create a lot of left to right spin in my case, and that can just be very inconsistent. Well, why does lowering the hands help you? Well, because once I set up to this ball and I open my club face, right, the club face is now pointed out to my right. Well, if I set up and I then lower my hands, look at how it brings this start line back towards my target. Meaning, because lowering the hands is actually pulling the start line back to my target, there's no longer this necessity to have to cut across the ball to get it started down my line. I can actually take a club face that's wide open, lower my hands. Now my start line is actually still back at my target. I can swing pretty neutral into this ball, and this ball should start somewhat down my target line, meaning I'm removing the need to have to get way steep and across the ball. That's why lowering the hands when you have an open club face in the bunker is very, very helpful. You can actually do the opposite, believe it or not. If you want to keep the ball flight very low, right? Well, if I want to keep the ball flight low, I'm going to try to keep the club face a little bit more close to try to keep the loft down when I do this. But if I do that and I'm set up somewhat square and my club face is shut, well, if I release the hands at all, this ball's going to start so far left, I have no chance. The only way for me to then keep it straight, I have to lean the handle a lot. That's going to bring the leading edge into play. If you bring the leading edge into play, oftentimes you can dig, you can suffer from very big low point issues. You're removing a lot of bounce, so your margin for error gets decreased. It's not always ideal. So if you want to keep the ball low around the greens, but you want to do it by keeping the club face a little bit more closed, you can, but then you actually stand taller and closer to it. Meaning I can keep the club face more closed, but in this case, it'll actually point more, obviously in my case to my left, but then if I actually raise this handle up, I can actually point this club face back to my target. And now all of a sudden, even though the club face is closed, because my handle is a lot higher, I can actually keep the ball flight down without the need to have to lean the handle so much. And again, that's a very rare case, but the example works the same, right? The science of the swing works the same. So yes, you can open and close the club face by manipulating this. Obviously, it's helpful for the loft as well, but you can also change it by changing this angle here. You can see just how I'm raising and lowering the handle, how much the club face is pointing all over the place. So when you're being told in bunkers or if you're short-sighted to open the club face to get loft, well, you don't have to do this and then cut across it. You can do this and actually lower the hands. Lowering the hands pulls the start line back to your target, and then you can swing somewhat neutral into this ball, and you'll actually get the ball started down your intended line. It's just a very different way to play that shot, but I want you to understand how playing around with the handle can actually help you.